Behind me is the first of 3 Zeekrs that we're driving in the next few weeks. This is the Zeekr X, a familiar platform from the Geely family, but with a very own unique style on top of it. My name is Peter and we're going to have a look at this Zeekr X. I think it is quite a good looking car here on the outside. There's a lot of styling elements going on to make it unique, which is necessary because obviously the Geely group has plenty of brands under its umbrella. And if you want to stand out in the family, then you got to do a few things special. It is 4.43 meters long, 1.83 meters wide, so it's not a huge car. It's somewhere between an ID.4 and an ID.3, for example. It sits on the same platform as the Volvo EX30, so that gives you a bit of an idea of size. And I think style-wise, they could have done a little bit better with this press demo to give it a bit more of a funky color. But it looks quite nice. It's an own face, and it's an interesting take on how a car should look. Here on the front you can see the daytime running lights here on the side, and the headlights are actually down there because the headlights can be mounted low in the car these days because those LED beams are so bright and so good. And I think overall it's a good looking front end of the car. The same goes for the rear and the side profile. It's unique, but not in a way that you're like, ooh, they're trying too hard. It still looks quite sophisticated, and the same will go for the inside, as we'll see in a bit. Now, I mentioned the Geely family line. This car sits on the familiar Geely 400 volt architecture, meaning that charging and such are not as fast as they can be. We got a 66 kilowatt hour battery pack underneath this all-wheel drive performance version, and we can charge with 150 kilowatts. So not the last word in charging speeds, but those are the limitations of a 400 volt platform. My own Xpeng G6, for example, is built on an 800 volt architecture platform, meaning that mine can already charge at 280, and the new version of my car can charge faster than 400 even. So that shows you that the future is 800 volt and up, and I'm pretty sure that Geely at some point will upgrade all its models across the range to 800 as well, because the Kias are doing it, Hyundais are doing it, a lot of the Chinese brands are doing it, so I think they will follow suit at some point too. This all-wheel drive performance version can charge 22 kilowatts at home though, so that's nice. If you can find a public charger that supports those kind of speed, you can charge a bit faster there. Although if you're charging overnight at home, that doesn't really matter, but still it's nice that the option is there. To further stand out from the crowd, Zeekr has mounted a frunk, something that Volkswagen still can't do in its ID models. So that's nice. It's nothing to write home about. It's a little shoebox size bin here. You're not going to put any hand luggage or anything in there, but it's nice. It is big enough for your charging cable, for example, and it is nice to get a few things out of the way. Personally, I have some wiper fluid there in my own car and a few cleaning things and some gloves, so that's, you know, it's nice and practical to have that out of the way and accessible at all times. While we are looking at storage, we will also have a look at the boot. The opening for the boot is up here, and that reveals a 330 liters load capacity. So that is not something that you're gonna, fill up with your ski holiday with your whole family, but it is a car that will fit your whole family, so that's good, and this is easily big enough for a small weekend away. It's not class leading or anything, but with a little bit of extra storage underneath here and quite a deep part of the bin down there, it is very practical and probably all you need 90% of the time. So that's great, nice boot size, well done I think, and very practical for the size car, because don't forget, it's not a huge car in length at all. So that's the Zeekr X on the outside. Now obviously we're going to go for a drive, but first we're going to have a look inside because there's a lot to see there as well. Of course, we do the full cockpit tour, and this is an interesting blend of colors, materials, and sort of the way the interior of the car flows. So let's dive into this and let's explore together. Obviously, the main theme is minimalistic design, as it is with all the Chinese car brands. So there is a complete absence of buttons, apart from the joysticks on the steering wheel, the stalks here, and the window controls, and that is it. That's all you get. The rest you got to do in the screen and with the joysticks. That is the modern way. It's especially the modern Chinese way. Personally, I always prefer a few buttons, but the integration is done fairly well here. What's not done so well here on the left is that we only have window switches, so no mirror control. That you have to do in the screen and then use your joysticks. Annoying, not necessary. I say it in almost all the reviews. It is not going to ruin the aesthetics of the car to have a little joystick here that operates your mirrors. It's just not necessary to remove that, and it's just easier if this lives over here because you can adjust it on the fly. Next to that, you see this giant white panel with sort of holes punched into them. And not say sort of, it is holes punched into the material, because behind here is the ambient lighting. It's in the passenger door too, and there is this full LED strip across the whole dash for the ambient lighting as well, and it's here in the speaker grills. So that's a lot of ambient lighting, and of course you can do 4 million colors based on your speed, your music, pulsating, breathing, you name it. It is not that elegantly done, I think, but it does work. For me, this is a bit much. I'd rather see like a strip underneath, for example, but it is an interesting effect at night. What's also interesting is the fact that there's no door handle. There is a sort of open space here for your hand to close the door, but to open the door you have to press this button here. That's a bit counterintuitive, because you sort of have to turn your hand in an awkward position between the steering wheel and the door, and then you got to press it and open it with your elbow. So that's not ideal. My Xpeng has a button here that you sort of naturally press with your hand while you're opening the door. So that makes a bit more sense to me. Not really a very good solution. Then we look at the steering wheel, which is a squircle, a square circle. Also in general, not a good solution. I just prefer a round steering wheel, but this is still round enough that it slides through your hands on roundabouts and so on. And it's not in any way sort of annoyingly square, like for example my Xpeng steering wheel, which is more like a rectangle. On the steering wheel you have your joysticks and a few buttons to flip through some pages on your screen and for the voice assistant, and that's it. And those joysticks are context dependent. So if I'm currently in the radio page on the screen, and then it flips through channels and volume, for example. If you go to other pages, then you have other functions with your joystick. So it does require some attention there, and it does require a bit of muscle memory on what is where and when. The screen itself is quite nice, very small, really letterbox size. So you have some basic information there like your speed, your charge and your temperature and so on, but not much more. The rest is done in the central screen. The driver's display is resting on sort of a bubble of where the sensors are for your drowsiness and your alertness. So that's there, and traditional stocks for, on the right side, your drive selector, cruise control and your parking button. And on the left you have your high beam, your indicators and your wiper settings. So that's nice and simple. Good that they kept this here. So that works nicely. I quite like this setup. It works really well, also in conjunction with the head-up display that we have in this car. I like the collaboration between the head-up display and the driver's display, although the information is often mostly the same. It is nice that those can work together and you can get all the information where you want it and how you want it. So that's good. Obviously, all the rest of the information is in the central screen with the car on it, as you can see, in the correct color. Do we pay attention? All other car makers, put it in the right color, please, because nothing is more frustrating and infuriating in my book than paying a lot of money for a car and then have the wrong car on the screen. It is not that complicated. The screen itself, as you can see, is blazing fast, has all the information you can ever want. And if you go in the car menu, obviously you can do everything and anything with the car set up, everything the way you want it to be. It could be just me, but I have to say that all these Chinese brands have very similar looking software. I don't know if, and if so, how much they share amongst each other, but it is very interesting that it doesn't matter if it's Volvo or Zeekr or Neo or Xpeng, is that they all end up with virtually the same looking software. So that's an interesting one to consider, but it is fantastic. It works super fast, does everything you want it to do. So this is everything you want from a screen. If we go below the screen, we have a very interesting button here that you can use to hang a little bag from. I'm not really sure why that's there. I suppose to utilize this free space down here, which we'll get to in a second. It's flanked by some USBs for charging and connecting to the car, and this sort of flexible storage thing for, I don't know, your phone or some small stuff. Then this open bit in the middle is very interesting because it gives you a lot of air and space to move. Also when you're driving, for example, you can move your knee almost over completely. So that's excellent, and it's also very handy to put a little small backpack or some a box with snacks for the kids, or some little things there. Very handy. The only downside is that there's no support or no separation here, especially towards the driver's side of the car. Not an issue in itself because it does allow for that movement, but if your bag falls over and a bottle rolls out or an apple or whatever it might be, it is potentially an issue that it can roll into the pedal box, and of course that's a situation you want to avoid at all times. I'm not saying that I've constantly had bags falling over down here, but it is something that could potentially happen. Then we get to the central tunnel. This is closable, so that's nice and very handy to keep things out of sight. And there is a single cup holder here for your drink. That is expandable into a double cup holder. So if you both have drinks, you and your passenger, then you can actually put that there. And behind there is enough space for like sunglasses and stuff. Then this middle bit, you can already see my phone sticking out. That's the wireless charging in here. And inside this slot is also some rubber to push your phone down onto the charging pad for optimal contact. So that is okay, I think. But as you can see, my phone is already sticking out. So if you have an even bigger phone, it's going to stick out even further. And that could potentially be an issue if you hit that with your arm. This can also go up for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it can. And that is all you're going to get in this cockpit. The seats then are comfortable. I fit, which is always a plus. They are 18-fold adjustable, heating and cooling and so on. The cooling not very strong, I noticed this week. It was warm here in the Netherlands and I had my seat cooling on, the ventilation. But not that I was like, ooh, there's a lot of air coming through. But I do fit, and that's nice. And it sort of ties in with the whole air of the cabin nicely. I'm comfortable. I have a good overview of the car. There's a lot of light coming in, obviously because the interior is light, but also because of the big panoramic roof. The panoramic roof has no cover, so you can't close this off. It's always open and exposed like this. But it is quite heavily tinted. My X-Bang has the same, also no cover, and even on bright sunny days you don't get cooked in here, so that is good. Last but not least, the audio system is made by Yamaha, and if we go into the car menu and go to sounds, we can have obviously how loud we want certain things like navigation or phone to be. We also have optimization, so we can compensate for the speed. We can have focus for the driver, for front or back or everybody. We can even improve some sound effects by the jazz club, stage act or movie settings. We can upgrade the low quality to high quality audio. Some basic settings for your sound system. So not much to mess with for you audiophiles out there, but enough settings for your average car user. I'm not too much of an expert that I can tell you this is better than a B&O system or a JBL system or something else. But it does sound good in a car this size. So nothing is really hard and scratchy unless you start looking for it like deep down inside the car. But for example, the whole top of the dash is softer and not just hard plastic. So all around it's a pleasant place to be. Good overview as well. I can see where the car starts and ends. There's a lot of light coming in. So all around it is a good place to drive around. Of course, a little bit of driving in this Zeekr X currently on the highway. First thing I want to highlight when it comes to the driving is the shortcuts to the ADAS systems. We know they're legally obligated. Personally, I find them a pain in the ass, but they are here and they are here to stay. So for me, the goal is to be as fluent and as easy as possible to turn them off. And a lot of car makers are struggling with that. They hide it in 15 clicks in menus and swipes and such, which is very complicated. I personally think that Renault does it the best with the personal profile button on the left of the steering wheel that you just set it up once and then tap it twice to activate it and you are good to go. That is the best solution so far. But Zeekr is doing nicely too. You can swipe down from on the screen to the shortcut menu, and then all your shortcuts to your ADAS systems are right there. So you can turn your lane keeping off and your speed warnings off with 2 taps. So that's a good solution because early in the morning when you're leaving your house, the first thing you want to do is turn them off, and often you do that while you're already driving, which means you're not paying attention to the road and you run over dogs and children and bicycles, and that is obviously not something you want. This is a nice and elegant solution. We are driving the all-wheel drive performance version of this Zeekr X, which means we have 425 horsepower, we have a 0 to 100 sprint of about 4 seconds, and we have a claimed range of well over 400 kilometers. Not too sure about the range because that's WLTP of course, but I'd say 350-ish should be no problem. Power-wise, 425 horsepower for this size car is a lot, but it is very pleasant, of course, for the driving experience. Before you know it, you are at speeds that will make you lose your driver's license here in the Netherlands. And this is in the normal setting for the powertrain. The normal setting means you have a bit more compliance in the throttle pedal. There is sort of a delay in the kickdown, if you want to call it that way. So you accelerate and then the full power comes in like a second later, which is kind of nice. It makes the pedal a bit longer, a bit easier for everyday driving. If you want a more immediate response and the full throttle response for that matter, you need to put it into the sport mode. But in the week that I've had this car now, I have used sport mode twice to try it out. Most of the time the normal mode is more than fine, especially when you're driving around town. You don't want that sort of nervousness in the throttle pedal where you get a little bit jerky unnecessarily. Because it becomes a sensitive pedal then, and this normal mode has just a bit more travel and compliance, which is nicer for everyday driving. On top of all that power, we have all-wheel drive in this version, which I think is a necessity for this kind of power. I'd say anything over 300 horsepower, you do want four-wheel drive, because it means you can deploy the power in any weather condition and any road condition, which is of course what you want. And that's also the reason, for example, I have ticked the all-wheel drive option for my own Xpeng G6. Because that has even more power than this, approaching 500, and you do want that sort of extra security to be able to deploy all that power when you want to. Do you absolutely need this all-wheel drive high performance version? No, certainly not. There's also cheaper versions available for less money with only rear-wheel drive, but we'll get to pricing in a bit. Here in the back of the Zeekr, first impressions are good. There's a lot of air back here, there's a lot of space, it's all very nice. Even for somebody 183, 90 kilos, I fit here quite easily. There is a lot of room for my feet, even though the floor is not completely flat for some reason. And I cannot put my feet under the driver's seat very easily either. So that does limit the movement a little bit, but there is a lot of freedom to move around here, so that is good. And you're going to need that space to move because the back of the seats very, very hard, and the bottom of the seats is the same, just covered with a little bit of fabric, and it's also very hard, so that makes it instantly uncomfortable as soon as you touch the seat. So if you're taller than me, I have about this much knee room left, you're going to touch the seat, it's going to be instantly uncomfortable. Not as uncomfortable though as the seating position. You can probably see it on this camera shot. My butt is very low in the car, and that makes my knees very high. And there's a big gap here on the back of my legs, sort of from the knee to halfway up my thigh, that has no support at all. So that is uncomfortable. And if you're taller than me, there's headroom to spare. But if your legs are longer and you sit even higher up, it makes it very uncomfortable back here. For kids though, no issues. My boys are 8 and 11. They are very happy back here. And also if you carry kids in child seats, the ISOFIX covers are fixed to the bench, so they don't fly away and you'll never see them again. So that is very well done by Zeekr. Other than that, the materials are the same as in the front, so that's good. Same quality, same feeling, same colors and everything. So that's nice. That adds to the feeling of space back here too, together with the panoramic roof, of course. And you also have the same annoying door button up here for the door. The window is big enough and tapers a little bit back here, and then there is this sort of panel with nothingness back here, which can be a bit annoying because it's always sort of in the corner of your eye. There's no light coming from here, and that is also an issue sometimes while you're driving with your blind spots. It's a bit inevitable because of the design and the shape of the car, but it is something that you notice and you have to get used to. Especially when you're looking out the window, there's always in the corner of your eye this sort of panel with no light. So that's that. All round, not the best back seat I've ever seen, to be honest, but it's okay. And yeah, as long as you're not taller than me, you should probably be fine back here also for a slightly longer journey, but there are some missed opportunities. One of those is also the armrest, which is fine in itself, but it's a bit of a generic product that you find in basically any kind of car. And this one is 50,000 euros almost, and then you still have this generic little floppy rubbery thing. Not so nice. Plus it's always open, so you're always in there with your hand or your wrist. So at this price point, I think they should have done better and have something come out of the top here. Sitting here on the highway, it is a perfectly comfortable car to drive. I'm comfortable in here. I have a lot of light and a lot of glass around me, which is very pleasant for the driving experience. And all around, it's relatively refined. It's quiet, apart from like a little bit of wind noise and a little bit of tire noise, but nothing to really write home about. It's all around, it's a pleasant experience here on the highway. And the same really goes for city driving. You have good overview of the car. It's not a large car per se, so that's nice too. And it makes it easy to place and easy to maneuver around. I mentioned the ID3 as a comparison size-wise. I looked it up. It's actually the ID4 that is closer to, so a step bigger. It does feel less roomy than an ID4, I have to say, although it's been a while that I've driven that car. But yeah, it feels slightly less airy in here than an ID4, especially in the boot as well. But it's a car that easily fits my family, so that's good. My 11 and 8-year-old children in the back seats, no issues whatsoever, plenty of room to move about, and there's also enough luggage space, as I showed you before, for your weekend away and everything less than that. I don't think this is the car that you'll take to ski holiday as far as that goes. I mean, technically speaking, you can do it, but you know, you can get more boot space in a different kind of vehicle if that is your main aim. It is, however, a size car that will suit, I'd say, 90 to 95% of your driving needs. And apart from, you know, full-on car holiday road trips, I think there's pretty much nothing you cannot do with this vehicle. There's nothing fundamentally to complain about. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with the car. All bases seem to be covered in terms of quality, comfort. The seats are nice. The view is good. The seats in the back are well sorted. Of course, there's a few things that I would personally change, like this sort of ambient lighting panel in the door with the dotted skyline. That's not really my kind of thing. Or the open space here in the front without any sort of wall system towards the driver is, I think, not the best idea. And also this phone holder seems like a bit of an afterthought. But you know, those are small nitpick things. I think all around, the cabin is well thought through, it's comfortable, the power is pleasant to drive with, the help systems, the camera systems, everything is well sorted. So it's quite nice. It's a good product as far as a car goes, and also as an experience driving this day to day. And the fact that this car is part of the Geely family that I mentioned earlier also makes you confident in the brand, that it's not something that's, you know, built up in somebody's shed in China. It is actually a solid brand with solid technical backing and a lot of money behind it as well. So that is also something that gives you confidence for the future. So this version costs 50,000 euro, give or take, and that is a lot of money. If you start on the bottom end of the range, you can already have a Zeekr X for 35,000, so that's quite a large price gap. If you can afford it, I'd say go for this one. If this is your only and primary vehicle, then certainly, why not? If you can afford the 50k price tag, this is certainly the one to go for with all that power, all-wheel drive. It's just nice. It seems like a lot of money for a car this size, but if you take a Volkswagen ID4 GTX, that is the four-wheel drive version, and spec it up to this level, you're easily touching 50k as well. And if you're going for something AMG or something Audi in this sort of range of power, then it gets quite scary quite quickly as well with the options list. So yeah, it might seem like a lot of money. 50k is a lot of money, let's be honest, but still, you know, it is on par with with the segment that it's aiming for and with the power and equipment levels that it is delivering. But for 50k, there is a lot of options out there in terms of car, so it's definitely worth shopping around. And in all honesty, this is of course a kind of platform and a design and a feeling of a vehicle that needs to be in line with your personal values and preferences. But I think it's a solid offering from Zeekr and definitely deserves to be shortlisted, at least for a test drive, if you are in the market for a vehicle this size and around this price point. And that is all I got for you in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked it. Give it a thumbs up if that's the case. If it's not the case, let us know in the comments below what needs to be different next time, and then we will make adjustments. In the meantime, please give it a sub to the channel. That's always highly appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.